The African savanna, a place of vast plains, endless skies, relentless sun, it is a land of stark beauty, a land of unforgiving extremes. Here, life hangs in the balance, a delicate dance between survival and extinction. Every sunrise brings new hope, every sunset a struggle for life. The savanna is a tapestry of life, woven with countless threads. From the smallest insects to the mightiest elephants, each creature plays a vital role. A delicate balance, easily disrupted. But at the heart of this wild kingdom, one creature reigns supreme. The lion, a symbol of power, an icon of grace. The undisputed king of the savanna. Their roars echo across the plains, a chilling reminder of their dominance. Their presence shapes the very landscape they inhabit. These are the stories of those who live and die under the African sun. Stories of survival against all odds. Stories of family bonds forged in the crucible of the wild. These are the stories of lion's rule. Lions are apex predators, masters of their domain. They sit atop the food chain, dictating the rhythm of life and death on the savanna. Their survival depends on instinct, on cunning, on raw power. They are the ultimate hunters, their bodies perfectly adapted for the kill. Muscular frames built for speed and agility, powerful jaws that can crush bone, claws as sharp as daggers. Their tawny coats blend seamlessly with the golden grass, providing camouflage as they stalk their prey. Lions are both beautiful and deadly, a force of nature to be reckoned with. Their roar is their signature, a sound that sends shivers down the spines of all who hear it. A territorial call, a warning to rivals, a celebration of a successful hunt. It's a sound that defines the African night, but life for a lion is not all about power and dominance. There is another side to these majestic creatures, a side often overlooked. Lions are social animals. They live in complex groups called prides. Within these prides, a delicate balance exists, a hierarchy maintained by intricate social interactions. A pride is a family unit, a microcosm of lion society. At its heart are the lionesses. They are the core, the strength, the backbone of the pride. These formidable females are responsible for hunting, for raising cubs, for protecting their territory. Lionesses are masters of cooperation, working together seamlessly to bring down prey much larger than themselves. They are fierce protectors of their young, nurturing them, teaching them the ways of the wild. Ensuring the survival of the pride depends on their strength and wisdom. The male lion, with his impressive mane, is the iconic figurehead. His role is primarily one of protection. He defends the pride's territory from rivals, from hyenas, from any threat that may arise. His size and strength are formidable deterrents. Cubs bring both joy and vulnerability to the pride. Their playful antics provide a heartwarming counterpoint to the harsh realities of life on the savanna. But they are also vulnerable, easy targets for predators. Their survival rests entirely on the protection of the pride. Our story takes us to the heart of the Serengeti, a vast and iconic ecosystem in East Africa. It is here, amongst the rolling grasslands and acacia woodlands, that we meet our pride. A group of lions battling for survival against a backdrop of breathtaking beauty and relentless challenges. The Serengeti is a land of constant change. The annual migration of millions of wildebeest and zebra dictates the rhythm of life. The dry season brings with it hardship. Water becomes scarce, prey is harder to find. The lions must dig deep, relying on their instincts and their bond to survive. This is their story, the story of a pride navigating the complexities of life and death in one of the world's most iconic ecosystems. A story of power struggles and tender moments, a story of survival against all odds. The The sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the savanna. The sky erupts in a fiery display of colors, a breathtaking spectacle that masks the harsh realities of life on the brink. For the lions of the Serengeti, every day is a battle for survival. They face threats from all sides, from rival prides vying for territory, from opportunistic predators eager to steal a kill or target vulnerable cubs. And increasingly, they face a new danger, a danger that threatens not only their way of life, but the very future of their species. This is the story of their fight for survival, a story of resilience in the face of adversity, a story of family bonds that run deeper than blood. Join us as we journey into the heart of lion country, as we witness the drama, the majesty, and the vulnerability of these incredible creatures. This is Lion's Rule. In the heart of the Serengeti, where the vast plains meet a labyrinth of emerald green marshes, lives a pride of lions known as the Marsh Pride. Their territory, a tapestry of life-giving water and sun-baked grasslands, sustains them, but not without a fight. For generations, they have ruled this kingdom, their lives intrinsically linked to the ebb and flow of the seasons. 16 lions strong, the Marsh Pride is a formidable force. Led by a coalition of 3 powerful lionesses, they are bound by blood and loyalty, their survival dependent on their unity and strength. Each member, from the eldest lioness to the smallest cub, plays a vital role in the delicate balance of pride life. Life of the Marsh Pride is a constant cycle of hunting and feasting, rest and vigilance. The hunt is paramount, a test of their skill and teamwork, for their survival hinges on their ability to bring down prey. But danger lurks around every corner, and the Marsh Pride must always be on guard, for their domain is coveted by rivals who would see them cast out. Theirs is a story etched in the very soil of the Serengeti, a testament to the enduring spirit of lions in a land where only the strong survive. Their story is our story, a window into the lives of these magnificent creatures and the challenges they face in a world of ever-increasing pressure. At the helm of the Marsh Pride reigns Kali, a lioness whose very presence commands respect. Her name, a whisper of danger and power, is spoken with reverence by her pride and trepidation by her rivals. With her piercing emerald eyes that seem to hold the wisdom of generations, Kali is the embodiment of a queen. Her coat, a rich golden tapestry kissed by the African sun, bears the scars of countless hunts and battles, a testament to her unwavering strength. Every movement speaks of grace and power, a subtle twitch of her tail, a flick of her ear, a silent language understood by those who live under her watchful gaze. Kali's roar is a force of nature, a deep guttural sound that echoes across the savanna, announcing her presence and sending shivers down the spines of any who dare to challenge her authority. She is a formidable hunter, her instincts honed by years of experience, her senses sharp as she stalks her prey with an almost supernatural awareness. But Kali is more than just a hunter, more than just a queen. She is a mother, her heart fiercely protective of the 4 cubs that tumble around her, their playful antics a stark contrast to the harsh realities of life on the savanna. It is for them that she fights, for them that she leads, her every action driven by an unwavering maternal instinct to ensure their survival. Section 3, A Mother's Burden. Kali's cubs, 3 females and a lone male, are the pride's newest generation, their playful energy a constant reminder of the circle of life. Their soft, downy coats, speckled with rosette markings that will fade with age, belie their vulnerability in a world where danger lurks around every corner. Their days are a whirlwind of playful chases, clumsy pounces and mock battles. Their tiny claws and milk teeth a far cry from the lethal weapons they will one day wield. They tumble over each other, their high-pitched squeaks and growls a symphony of innocence against the backdrop of the savanna. But Kaylee knows that their idyllic childhood will not last. The savanna is a harsh teacher, and the lessons of survival are often learned through hardship. She watches them with a careful eye, her heart swelling with both love and a deep-seated anxiety, for she has seen firsthand the fragility of life. The memory of her previous litter, lost to a flash flood that swept through their territory, is a constant ache in her heart, a reminder of the ever-present dangers that threaten her cubs' survival. She is determined to protect them, to teach them everything they need to know to navigate the challenges that lie ahead. Section 4. The Encroaching Shadow. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the savanna, a new danger emerges on the horizon. A rival pride, led by the battle-scarred male known as Scarface, is encroaching on the Marsh Pride's territory. Scarface, his name a testament to a life of brutal conflict, is a formidable opponent. Larger than any male in the Marsh Pride, his scarred visage and mane, ragged and tinged with grey, speak of countless battles fought and won. His ambition is as boundless as the savanna itself, his desire for power and dominance an ever-present threat. His pride, a band of hardened survivors, reflects their leader's ruthless nature. Their arrival in the Marsh Pride's territory is a deliberate provocation, a challenge to Kaylee's authority, and a threat to the fragile peace that has reigned for so long. The air crackles with tension, the scent of danger carried on the wind. The Marsh Pride, their senses on high alert, can feel the shift in the balance of power, the knowledge that a confrontation is inevitable hanging heavy in the air. Section 5. Whispers on the Wind. The news of Scarface's arrival spreads through the Marsh Pride like wildfire, carried on whispers of unease and the instinctual knowledge of impending conflict. The playful antics of the cubs subside, replaced by an unusual stillness as they sense the change in their mother's demeanor. Kaylee, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon, where she last saw Scarface and his pride, feels a knot of anxiety tighten in her chest. She has faced many challenges in her long reign as queen, but Scarface represents a different kind of threat, a force of nature as relentless and unforgiving as the savanna itself. The balance of power is shifting, the very air thick with anticipation. The whispers on the wind speak of a confrontation that will test the Marsh Pride's strength and unity, a battle for survival that will determine the fate of both prides. The stage is set, the players in place, and as the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the savanna, the tension builds towards an explosive climax. The arrival of Scarface cast a long shadow over the Marsh Pride. The once carefree atmosphere, filled with the playful antics of cubs and the reassuring presence of experienced hunters, now thrummed with an undercurrent of unease. The very air seemed thick with tension, the savanna's silence broken by the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of watchful birds. The routine of the pride, once as predictable as the sunrise and sunset, was disrupted. Hunts were no longer solely about sustenance. They were now tinged with an edge of urgency, a need to feed not only hungry bellies but also to fuel the growing anxiety that gnawed at their resolve. Rest, once a time for languid stretches and affectionate nuzzles, was now punctuated by sudden awakenings, ears pricked at every rustle in the grass, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. The lionesses, once a united front of strength and experience, now moved with a subtle distance between them, their conversations laced with unspoken anxieties. The playful squabbles of the cubs were met with hushed reprimands, their youthful exuberance a stark contrast to the grim realities that faced the pride. The delicate balance of life within the Marsh Pride, a tapestry woven from generations of shared history and unwavering loyalty, was beginning to fray at the edges. The encroaching presence of Scarface, like a predator stalking its prey, threatened to unravel the very fabric of their existence. Kaylee, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility, felt the shift in her pride's demeanor like a physical ache. The playful antics of her cubs, once a source of boundless joy, now tugged at her with a mixture of love and fear. Their innocent eyes, reflecting the vastness of the savanna sky, were oblivious to the storm clouds gathering on the horizon, a storm she knew only she could weather. The legacy of the Marsh Pride, a legacy passed down through generations of strong lionesses, rested squarely on her shoulders. She had led them through droughts and floods, through skirmishes with rival prides and the ever-present threat of hyenas and leopards. But Scarface, with his battle-scarred visage and aura of ruthless ambition, represented a different kind of danger, a challenge that struck at the very heart of her authority. She remembered the stories whispered by the elders, tales of Scarface's rise to power, of his brutal efficiency in dispatching his rivals, of his unwavering ambition to claim the most fertile territories and the strongest lionesses. His reputation preceded him like a chilling wind, a harbinger of the chaos that threatened to engulf their once peaceful existence. As the sky deepened into hues of orange and purple, painting the savanna in a tapestry of fleeting beauty, Kaylee made a silent vow. She would protect her pride, her cubs, her legacy, no matter the cost. The weight of their survival rested on her shoulders, and she would not let them down. Amongst the Marsh Pride, a young lioness named Zuri watched Kali with a mixture of admiration and growing discontent. Zuri, whose name meant beautiful in the ancient tongue of the savanna, possessed a spirit as wild and untamed as the land itself. Her amber eyes, sharp and intelligent, observed the unfolding drama with a keen awareness that belied her tender years. While the other lionesses looked to Kaylee with unwavering loyalty, Zuri harbored a seed of doubt. She respected Kaylee's strength, her experience, but she also sensed a hesitation in the queen's demeanor, a flicker of uncertainty that had not been present before. Zuri, whose own mother had fallen victim to a rival pride's attack, believed that survival hinged on decisive action, on meeting threats head-on rather than waiting for them to arrive at their doorstep. Whispers of Zuri's doubts began to circulate through the pride, carried on the wind like seeds scattered by the changing seasons. Some dismissed her concerns, attributing them to her youth and inexperience. Others, however, found themselves drawn to her boldness, to her unwavering belief that the Marsh Pride could not afford to remain passive in the face of such a formidable threat. Zuri, aware of the murmurs surrounding her, felt a surge of both excitement and trepidation. She had never sought to challenge Kaylee's authority, but she could no longer ignore the instinct that gnawed at her. The feeling that their survival depended on a different kind of leadership, a leadership that embraced boldness and met challenges head-on. The tension between Kaylee and Zuri finally erupted one moonlit night. The savanna bathed in an eerie silver glow. The hunt had been unsuccessful, the prey escaping their grasp with a burst of speed and a cloud of dust. Frustration hung heavy in the air, amplified by the ever-present anxiety that had become their constant companion. As the pride gathered around a small waterhole, their reflections shimmering in the moonlight, Zuri broke the silence. "We cannot afford to wait," she declared, her voice ringing with a conviction that startled the other lionesses. "Scarface grows stronger by the day, his pride emboldened by our inaction. We must act now before it's too late." Kaylee, her gaze fixed on the water's surface, felt a surge of anger rise within her. Zuri's words, while spoken with the best of intentions, felt like a direct challenge to her authority, a questioning of her judgment. "You speak out of turn, Zuri," she replied, her voice low and laced with warning. "This is not your place to question my decisions." Zuri, her chin held high, stood her ground. "With all due respect, Kaylee," she countered, "we are all invested in the survival of this pride. To remain silent in the face of such a threat is not loyalty, it is negligence. We need a leader who will fight for us, who will not hesitate to protect what is ours." The air crackled with tension, the other lionesses exchanging uneasy glances. The bond of loyalty that had always held the Marsh Pride together was being tested, stretched thin by the weight of their uncertain future. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows across the savanna, a scout from the Marsh Pride returned with unsettling news. Scarface, under the cover of darkness, had moved his pride closer to their territory, their scent now a tangible presence on the wind. The news spread through the pride like a shockwave, shattering any pretense of tranquility. The lionesses, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination, gathered around Kaylee, their queen, their leader, their protector. But even in the face of this imminent threat, the division sown by Zuri's words lingered in the air, a silent rift that threatened to undermine their unity. Kaylee, her heart heavy with the weight of responsibility, knew that the time for debate was over. Scarface was making his move, testing the boundaries of their strength, their resolve. She had to act, and act decisively, if she was to protect her pride, her cubs, her legacy. As the first rays of dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of pink and gold, Carly made a decision. She would confront Scarface, not in a desperate attempt to defeat him, but to negotiate, to buy her pride time to regroup, to heal the divisions that threatened to tear them apart. With a heavy heart and a gaze that held the weight of generations, Kaylee turned to her pride, her voice a low growl that echoed the uncertainty of their future. "We stand on the razor's edge," she declared, her words sharp and clear. "The choices we make today will determine our fate. We must stand together as one if we are to survive." The weight of her decision pressed down on Kaylee like a physical burden. Confronting Scarface was a gamble, a desperate throw of the dice in a game where the stakes were life and death. But Kaylee, her instincts honed by years of leadership, knew that inaction was not an option. To do nothing was to surrender their fate to a rival who would show them no mercy. She gathered the lionesses close, their powerful bodies forming a circle of strength and solidarity beneath the fading light of the stars. Her gaze, steady and resolute, met each of theirs in turn, conveying the gravity of the task ahead. "We will meet Scarface on neutral ground," she announced, her voice a low rumble that echoed their shared determination. The plan was audacious, bordering on reckless. Kaylee would venture into the heart of Scarface's territory, accompanied only by her most trusted lieutenant, a seasoned hunter named Usher. Together they would seek an audience with the rival leader, a parley under the watchful gaze of the savannah's ancient spirits. It was a dangerous gambit, fraught with risks. Scarface could easily interpret their arrival as a sign of weakness, an opportunity to strike a decisive blow against a divided pride. But Kaylee clung to a sliver of hope, a belief that even the most hardened heart could be swayed by a plea for peace, a plea for the survival of her pride. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the savanna's darkness, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Kaylee felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her chest. The weight of her pride's fate, the future of her cubs, rested squarely on her shoulders. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to seek refuge in the familiar embrace of her territory. But Carly was a queen, her spirit forged in the crucible of countless challenges. Fear was a luxury she could ill afford. a weakness that could shatter the fragile hope she carried within her heart. She had stared down charging buffalo, had faced the fury of a territorial leopard, and emerged victorious. This challenge, this confrontation with Scarface, would be no different. She touched her nose to each of her cubs, their soft purr a comfort against her own weathered muzzle. "Be brave, little ones," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Your mother will return." And with a final, lingering glance at her pride, she turned and followed Asher into the rising sun. The savanna stretched before them, a vast and unforgiving expanse of golden grass and acacia trees. The air hung heavy with the scent of dust and the distant calls of unseen animals. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig, sent a jolt of adrenaline through Kaylee's body, a reminder of the dangers that lurked at every turn. The journey to Scarface's territory was a blur of heat, dust, and nervous anticipation. Kaylee and Asher moved with the stealth of seasoned hunters, their senses on high alert, their bodies tense with the knowledge that every step took them closer to danger. The familiar landmarks of their own territory fell behind, replaced by a landscape that grew increasingly alien, the scent of Scarface's pride heavy in the air. They crossed dry riverbeds, their cracked earth baking under the relentless sun. They navigated dense thickets, the thorns tearing at their coats, leaving tiny beads of blood in their wake. And all the while, the knowledge of their destination, the heart of their rival's domain, pressed down on them like a physical weight. The sun reached its zenith, casting long, unforgiving shadows across the savanna. Exhaustion gnawed at Kaylee's limbs, but she pressed on, fueled by a mother's love and a queen's determination. She would not falter, not now, not when the fate of her pride hung in the balance. As the afternoon wore on, the landscape began to change. The vegetation grew thicker, the air heavy with the scent of moisture. They were approaching the heart of Scarface's territory, a lush valley fed by a network of hidden springs. It was here, in this oasis of life, that the rival Pride made their den. The air crackled with tension as Kaylee and Asher emerged from the undergrowth and stepped onto the dusty clearing that marked the boundary of Scarface's domain. The scent of the rival Pride, a musky blend of sweat, urine, and raw power, hung heavy in the air, a silent warning to all who dared to trespass. Across the clearing, lounging in the shade of a massive baobab tree, lay Scarface himself. Larger than any male Kali had ever encountered, his scarred visage and mane, a tangled mess of black and silver, radiated an aura of raw power and ruthless authority. He was flanked by a formidable guard of lionesses, their eyes fixed on the newcomers with a mixture of curiosity and simmering hostility. Kaylee, her heart pounding against her ribs, drew strength from the presence of Asher at her side. Together they walked towards Scarface, their movements slow and deliberate, their heads held high, their gazes unwavering. They were outnumbered, outmuscled, but not outmatched in courage or determination. "Scarface!" Kaylee called out, her voice echoing across the clearing, a lone voice of defiance against the backdrop of the savanna's silence. "We come in peace, seeking a truce, a way for our prides to coexist." Scarface, his yellow eyes narrowed to slits, rose slowly to his feet, his massive frame towering over them like a dark thundercloud. A low growl rumbled in his chest, shaking the very ground beneath their paws. "Peace!" he snarled, his voice a guttural rasp that sent shivers down Kaylee's spine. "You speak of peace when your pride is weak, when your cubs are vulnerable." The air crackled with tension as Kaylee held Scarface's gaze, her own unwavering despite the fear that gnawed at the edges of her composure. She had anticipated his hostility, his skepticism, yet a flicker of hope still burned within her, fueled by the desperate need to protect her pride. "My cubs are the future of the Marsh Pride," Kaylee stated, her voice firm despite the tremor that threatened to betray her anxiety. "They pose no threat to you. We do not seek conflict, only the chance to raise our young in peace." Scarface let out a low chuckle that echoed across the clearing, a sound devoid of humor laced with a chilling undercurrent of menace. "Peace comes at a price," he growled, his gaze fixed on Kaylee with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. He paused, allowing his words to hang in the air, thick with unspoken threat, before continuing, his voice a low rumble that seemed to emanate from the very earth beneath their paws. "Zuri, send her to my pride, a show of good faith, a guarantee of your peaceful intentions." The weight of his words crashed down on Kaylee, stealing the breath from her lungs. Zuri, the young, rebellious lioness, had inadvertently become a bargaining chip in a game of survival, her fate intertwined with the future of the Marsh Pride. Kaylee's heart ached with the impossible choice before her, a choice that would test the very limits of her loyalty, her maternal instincts, and the sacrifices she was willing to make for the survival of her pride. The savanna stretched before Kaylee, a vast and unforgiving expanse that mirrored the turmoil within her own heart. Scarface's words, a cruel ultimatum delivered with chilling indifference, echoed in her ears, each syllable a heavy weight settling upon her soul. Zuri, her rebellious spirit, her unwavering loyalty, now hung in the balance, a bargaining chip in a game of survival she'd never chosen to play. The setting sun cast long, ominous shadows across the land, mirroring the darkness that threatened to consume Kaylee's spirit. She had faced countless challenges during her reign as queen, had stared down death in its many forms, yet nothing could have prepared her for this. The agonizing choice between protecting her pride and sacrificing one of their own. The image of Zuri's face, youthful, defiant, filled with a fire that mirrored her own, flashed through Kaylee's mind. She had clashed with the young lioness, had questioned her loyalty, yet she couldn't deny the fierce spirit that burned within Zuri, a spirit that reminded her so much of her younger self. To condemn her to a life within Scarface's pride, to a life under the rule of a tyrant, felt like a betrayal of the very essence of their bond. And yet, what choice did she have? To refuse Scarface's demand was to condemn her entire pride to a war they could not win, a war that would leave her cubs orphaned, her legacy shattered, the weight of their lives, their futures, pressed down on her, a suffocating burden that threatened to crush her very spirit. News of Scarface's ultimatum spread through the assembled Marsh Pride like a wildfire, igniting a maelstrom of fear, anger, and despair. The lionesses, their powerful frames trembling with barely suppressed fury, looked to Kaylee for guidance, their queen, their protector, their only hope in the face of this unimaginable threat. Zuri stood amongst her pride, her amber eyes, usually blazing with youthful defiance, now shone with a startling clarity. The weight of Kaylee's dilemma, the impossible choice before her, settled upon the young lioness with the crushing weight of an avalanche. She had challenged Kaylee's leadership, had yearned for a chance to prove her own strength, yet never had she imagined it would come at such a devastating cost. As whispers of fear and uncertainty rippled through the assembled pride, Zuri stepped forward, her chin held high, her gaze unwavering as she addressed her queen. "Kaylee," she spoke, her voice strong and clear despite the tremor that ran through her lean frame. "You do not have to make this choice. I will go." A stunned silence descended upon the pride, the weight of her words hanging in the air like a thunderclap. The lionesses gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief as Zuri's selfless offer cut through the fear that threatened to paralyze them. Even Kaylee, her heart heavy with the weight of 1,000 unspoken apologies, stared at the young lioness, awestruck by her quiet courage. As the last rays of the setting sun painted the savanna in hues of blood orange and bruised violet, the Marsh Pride gathered for a farewell, a heart-wrenching tapestry of sorrow and defiance woven into the very fabric of their being. Zuri stood at the center, a solitary figure about to be swallowed by the approaching darkness. Her youthful strength a stark counterpoint to the grief that etched lines on the faces of her Pride sisters. Kaylee, her heart a heavy stone in her chest, approached Zuri, her own emerald eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She touched her nose to the young lioness's, a gesture laden with a lifetime of unspoken emotions, a queen's burden of responsibility mingling with a mother's love for a daughter she could not protect. "You are the bravest lioness I know, Zuri," Kali murmured, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. The Marsh Pride will forever carry your strength in their hearts." Zuri, her chin held high, met Kaylee's gaze with a flicker of her characteristic fire. "I do this for the Pride," she replied, her voice unwavering, despite the tremor that ran through her lean frame. "For the future, for the cubs who will one day inherit this land." As the first stars began to prick the darkening sky, Zuri turned and, with a final lingering glance at her Pride, her family, her home, disappeared into the embrace of the savanna. The whispers of her name, carried on the wind, followed her like a bittersweet lament, a poignant reminder of the sacrifices demanded by survival. The following days dawned with a somber silence, the playful antics of the cubs muted, their innocent joy tempered by the palpable grief that hung heavy in the air. The Marsh Pride moved through their territory like ghosts, their movements haunted by Zuri's absence, their unity fractured by the weight of their shared loss. Kaylee, her heart heavy with the burden of her decision, knew that she had to find a way to reunite her Pride, to forge a new path forward from the ashes of their grief. They were vulnerable, their numbers depleted, their spirits shaken, and the ever-present threat of Scarface loomed large, a constant reminder of the precariousness of their existence. "Tonight we hunt," Kaylee announced, her voice a low rumble that echoed with newfound determination. "We hunt not only for sustenance, but for unity, for strength, for the memory of the one who sacrificed so much." And so, as the first sliver of moon peeked through the inky expanse of the night sky, the Marsh Pride moved as one, their bodies a symphony of coordinated movement, their senses heightened by a shared purpose. They stalked through the tall grass, their tawny coats blending seamlessly with the shadows, their presence a silent whisper of death to the unsuspecting prey. The hunt was a success, a testament to the Marsh Pride's enduring strength, their ability to find unity even in the face of loss. They feasted beneath the watchful gaze of the stars, their hunger sated, their bodies weary but content. Yet, even as a sense of normalcy returned to their routine, a shadow of doubt lingered in Kaylee's heart. The savanna stretched before her, a vast and unforgiving expanse that mirrored the uncertainty of their future. Scarface's threat, though temporarily abated, still loomed large. A storm cloud gathering on the horizon, its arrival inevitable, its fury unpredictable. Kaylee watched her Pride, her family, their bodies bathed in the soft glow of the moon, and a surge of protectiveness washed over her. The price of peace had been a heavy one, a sacrifice made with a heavy heart and a lingering sense of unease. She had bought them time, but for how long, and at what cost? As the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, painting the sky in hues of hope and uncertainty, Kaylee knew that their fight for survival was far from over. The savanna, a land of both breathtaking beauty and unforgiving cruelty, demanded constant vigilance, unwavering strength, and the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She was their queen, their protector, and she would not falter. Not while the legacy of the Marsh Pride, Zuri's sacrifice, and the future of her cubs rested upon her shoulders. Weeks turned into months. The oppressive weight of Scarface's presence lingered over the Marsh Pride, a constant shadow even in his physical absence. Zuri's absence left a void, a silent ache in the heart of the Pride. Yet life in the savanna continued, an intricate dance of survival woven into the very fabric of their being. The hunts, once fueled by a fierce unity born from loss, now carried a quiet desperation. The usual abundance of zebra and wildebeest, their migratory paths dictated by ancient rhythms, had dwindled. Whispers of unease rippled through the Pride as the lionesses returned from hunts with empty bellies, their cubs growing leaner with each passing day. The uneasy truce brokered with Scarface held a fragile agreement enforced by the harsh realities of a changing world. The once distinct boundaries between their territories blurred, the lines redrawn not by the roar of territorial battles, but by the shrinking wilderness that forced them into an uneasy proximity. Kali, ever vigilant, noticed the subtle shifts in the balance of power. The savanna, once their exclusive domain, now echoed with the distant rumble of engines, a sound alien and unsettling heralding the arrival of a new predator, one far more insidious and destructive than any they had faced before. A new era was dawning upon the savanna, one where the ancient rhythms of life were disrupted by the relentless march of human progress. Fences, cold and unforgiving, scarred the landscape, carving up the once boundless plains into a patchwork of fields and settlements. The migratory paths of the wildebeest, a lifeline for generations of lions, were disrupted, their herds funneled into ever-shrinking corridors, their numbers dwindling under the pressure of human encroachment. The savanna, once a symphony of life, now echoed with the sounds of construction, the clatter of machinery, the insistent hum of human activity. The lions, their senses finely tuned to the nuances of their world, felt the shift in the balance of power with growing unease. The scent of humans, once a fleeting annoyance at the fringes of their territory, now permeated their very existence, a constant reminder of the shrinking wilderness that threatened to cage their wild spirits. The elders, their muzzles dusted with the wisdom of years spent navigating the savanna's capricious nature, spoke of a time when the land stretched as far as the eye could see, when the herds of prey were as boundless as the sky above. But those stories, once a source of comfort and guidance, now carried a melancholic undertone, a lament for a world slipping through their pores. The lean months arrived earlier than usual, their grip tightening around the Marsh Pride like a vice. The once abundant waterholes dwindled to muddy puddles, the life-giving rains delayed by an unnaturally long dry season. The savanna, once teeming with life, now wore a parched and desolate mask. The hunts grew more desperate, the lionesses returning with increasing frequency, their bodies gaunt, their eyes reflecting the growing fear that gnawed at their bellies. The cubs, their playful energy replaced by a listless lethargy, their ribs visible beneath their thinning coats, became a constant source of worry for Kaylee. Even Scarface's pride, their arrogance once as boundless as their territory, felt the pinch of scarcity. Their roars, once a terrifying symphony of power, now carried a hollow, desperate edge, a testament to the hunger that gnawed at their bellies. The ancient rivalry between the prides, once fueled by territorial disputes and competition for mates, now took on a new dimension, a shared struggle for survival against an enemy far more formidable than either could have anticipated. The savanna, once a battlefield for dominance, now held them hostage in a cruel game of attrition, where the line between predator and prey blurred with each passing day. One particularly grueling day, as the sun beat down with merciless intensity, Kaylee found herself at a crossroads, her heart heavy with the weight of an impossible choice. The scent of desperation hung thick in the air, a tangible manifestation of their dwindling options. Her scouts had returned with grim news. A small herd of zebra, their flanks lean from the long migration, grazed within striking distance of a Maasai village, their presence a tantalizing beacon of hope amidst the encroaching despair. But the village, with its unfamiliar scents and sounds, its aura of human activity, represented a danger the lions instinctively avoided. To hunt near the village was to risk confrontation, to invite the wrath of the humans who guarded their livestock with a ferocity that rivaled their own. Yet to ignore this opportunity, to turn away from the only source of sustenance for miles, was to condemn her pride, her cubs, to a slow and agonizing death from starvation. The weight of their lives, their futures, pressed down on Kaylee, suffocating her with the magnitude of her responsibility. She looked out over her pride, their bodies gaunt, their movements sluggish, their eyes reflecting the flickering flame of hope that threatened to be extinguished by the harsh realities of their situation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of blood orange and bruised violet, Kaylee made her decision. She would not let her pride perish, not without a fight. She would confront the humans, would risk their wrath for the slimmest chance of survival. With a heavy heart and a gaze that held the weight of generations, she turned towards the distant village, its lights flickering like fireflies against the encroaching darkness. She gathered her pride, their depleted numbers a stark reminder of the stakes, their weary bodies finding strength in her unwavering resolve. And then she roared. It was not a roar of territorial aggression, nor a challenge to rivals. It was a roar born of desperation, a primal scream that echoed across the savanna, a plea for understanding, for mercy, for a chance to survive in a world that was shrinking around them. The sound, raw and untamed, reverberated through the night, a chilling reminder of the wild heart of Africa, a heart that was slowly being silenced by the relentless march of human progress. It was a roar that carried the weight of a queen's burden, a mother's love, and a desperate plea for survival against insurmountable odds. Kaylee's roar, a symphony of both power and desperation, hung in the air long after its echoes faded into the African night. It was a sound that spoke of a world out of balance, a world where the ancient rhythms of life were being disrupted by the relentless march of human progress. The savanna, once a boundless expanse ruled by instinct and the delicate dance of predator and prey, was shrinking with each passing season, its boundaries redrawn by fences, roads, and the ever-expanding footprint of humanity. The lions, their very existence intertwined with the ebb and flow of the wild, found themselves caught in a struggle for survival they could not win on their own. Their hunting grounds, once teeming with life-sustaining herds, were shrinking. Their prey, driven away by habitat loss and the encroaching presence of human settlements. The ancient pact between lions and the land, a pact forged over millennia of co-evolution, was being tested as never before, the consequences of its unraveling dire for both. The story of the Marsh Pride, a microcosm of the larger plight facing lions across Africa, is a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of all living things. As the human population continues to grow, the pressure on wild spaces intensifies, pushing iconic species like lions to the brink. Their survival, once assured by their status as apex predators, is now precarious. Their future uncertain in a world grappling with the consequences of its own success. The challenges are daunting. the threat's multifaceted. But amidst the stories of loss and hardship, there are glimmers of hope, beacons of resilience that remind us of the enduring spirit of the wild. Lions, with their majestic presence and undeniable charisma, captivate our imaginations and stir within us a primal awe. But their importance extends far beyond their aesthetic appeal. As apex predators, they play a vital role in maintaining the delicate balance of the ecosystems they inhabit. Their presence, far from being a threat to other species, ensures biodiversity, regulates prey populations, and contributes to the overall health of the savanna. The loss of lions, a tragedy in its own right, would send shockwaves through the intricate web of life, triggering a cascade of unintended consequences. The delicate balance, carefully calibrated over millennia, would be disrupted, leading to an overabundance of herbivores, overgrazing, and ultimately the degradation of the very habitats that sustain a myriad of species, including our own. Their presence is a barometer of the health of our planet, a reminder that the fate of wild creatures is inextricably linked to our own. Conserving lions, therefore, is not just about protecting a single species. It is about safeguarding the intricate web of life that sustains us all. The challenges are immense, but the stakes are too high to ignore. The future of lions, and indeed the future of the wild places they call home, depends on our collective action. Our willingness to recognize their intrinsic value and our responsibility to protect them for generations to come. There is still time to act, to rewrite the narrative, to ensure that the roar of the lion continues to echo across the savanna, a symbol of a world where both humanity and nature can thrive. The time to act is now. The future of lions hangs in the balance, their very survival dependent on our collective will to protect them. We can no longer afford to be passive observers, content to admire their beauty from a distance while their world crumbles around them. The responsibility to safeguard their future rests squarely on our shoulders, a shared burden and a moral imperative we cannot ignore. There are many ways to answer the call to action, to become part of the solution rather than contributing to the problem. Supporting organizations dedicated to lion conservation, raising awareness about their plight, advocating for policies that protect their habitat, and making conscious choices that minimize our own ecological footprint are all steps in the right direction. Education is paramount. We must teach future generations to appreciate lions not just for their majestic beauty, but for their ecological importance, their intrinsic value as a vital thread in the tapestry of life. We must inspire a sense of wonder and respect for the natural world, fostering a deep connection that transcends cultural differences and unites us in a shared commitment to conservation. The challenges are daunting, but the rewards are immeasurable. Imagine a world where the roar of lions continues to echo across the savanna, a testament to our collective will to protect them, a symbol of hope for future generations. It is a future worth fighting for, a future where lions and humans can coexist, their destinies intertwined in a tapestry of mutual respect and shared responsibility for the planet we call home. Let our actions be guided by Kali's Desperate Plea, a plea that reverberates not just across the savanna, but within the heart of humanity itself. Let us rise to the challenge, embrace our role as stewards of the earth, and ensure that the legacy of lions, a legacy of strength, resilience, and untamed beauty, endures for millennia to come.